First off, not every movie will get the same amount of attention. Why? Because it simply wouldn't feel right to give equal space to Ridley Scott's original Alien and a certain unnamed 2017 installment we shall not speak of. The films will be listed in a chronological order based on the timeline of the story, not the release dates. There's gonna be one exception.
I want this thing to go smooth and by the numbers.
And if you're hoping for some juicy details about Alien Earth, you'll have to wait a bit longer. The only thing I'll say for now is that it's set in the year 2120. Now, let's not waste any more time and dive right in. Given when this film takes place, it doesn't hold much relevance to the upcoming series, so I'd rather get it out of the way right at the start. There's also a personal reason. This was actually my first encounter with the Alien universe, and also the very first movie I ever watched on a PC, when I was around 7 years old. Unlike the rest of the series, this entry is shot with a more humorous tone. Instead of a gripping, suspenseful thriller, it leans more into being an entertaining action movie.
Beautiful, beautiful little babe.
Honestly, you could almost replace Ripley and the Alien with completely different characters, and it would barely feel like part of the iconic franchise. Still, it's worth mentioning Ron Perlman from Hellboy and the young and stunning Winona Ryder. And to be fair, the movie is quite enjoyable to watch. The closest chapter to the present day, after 33 years, Ridley Scott returned to the director's chair, and honestly, it's hard to imagine a better person to resurrect the franchise. But with age comes reflection, and Prometheus aims higher than just asking what happens when a crew of humans meets one or more aliens.
I have spent my entire lifetime contemplating the questions: where do we come from? What is our purpose? What happens when we die?
Personally, I come to Alien for the suspense and strong characters, so the philosophical angle didn't really hit for me, but hey, that's just me. What is undeniable is the film's visual brilliance. The casting's solid too. Michael Fassbender is phenomenal as David. Charming, precise, and just off enough to remind you he's not quite human. Idris Elba brings charisma and grit, but Guy Pearce is lost under a ton of makeup and barely shows up, and Charlize Theron is criminally underused. As for the lead role, Noomi Rapace as Dr. Shaw was a great pick. She's got a unique, natural presence, and she bulked up for the role in a way that makes her toughness totally believable. Plus, she plays one of the few characters you actually care about. Now, for the downsides. The movie doesn't lack jaw-dropping moments, but not always in a good way. Some character decisions are so dumb they border on parody. A top 5 dumbest decisions in the franchise list basically writes itself. That said, the film really picks up as it moves toward the climax. A few scenes in the final act are genuinely unforgettable, the kind that stick with you long after the credits roll. And it leaves the door open for a sequel in a way that actually makes you wonder what happens next to your favorite characters. Yeah, about that.
Watch me. I'll do the fingering. Go on. This is an amazing movie, isn't it?
As I said, Ressurection was my first contact with the franchise, so when I finally got the chance to watch The Alien, I expected cool action. But I couldn't have been more wrong. Right from the iconic opening title reveal, when you're told absolutely nothing, the atmosphere is thick enough to cut with a chainsaw. The film instantly grabs you with its patient exposition and a cast of human characters, none of whom feel like cliches. Even nearly 50 years later, the film offers breathtaking practical effects. Arguably the most impressive scene is when the crew lands on the planet and catches their first glimpse of the alien spacecraft. Brilliantly, it's off-center, which adds a sense of authenticity. At first, we see it only through a grainy monitor, stirring a desire to see more. And then, it's finally revealed in all its haunting grandeur. What follows is no less iconic. The crew's slow walk through the spaceship is a masterclass in suspense. You're glued to the monitor, trying to tilt your head and catch a better glimpse, but Ridley only gives you what he wants you to see. It all builds to the catastrophic moment when the crew finally sees what the facehugger did to Kane. It's absolutely terrifying, especially considering some of the cast didn't know exactly what would happen. Therefore, their reactions were partially real.
You have my sympathies.
And just when you think you know where the danger is coming from, Ash flips the whole thing on its head, not only adding tension, but also laying the groundwork for the franchise's bigger themes about corporate greed and human expendability.
Guaranteed by law to get a share.
What?
Why don't you just fuck off?
What? What'd you say, Rick?
Sigourney Weaver was a brilliant choice for Ellen Ripley. Her height gives her a naturally commanding presence on camera, and her arc from a rule-abiding officer to a confident survivor who's not afraid to bend those rules feels entirely believable.
Well, let's talk about killing it. We know it's using the air shafts. Will you listen to me, Parker? Shut up!
I believe most movie lovers have already seen this timeless classic. And if not, now is the perfect time to fix that.
Wait, don't let him go!
What the hell are you doing, man?
It's a cat.
When I found out last year that Alien Romulus is being released in August, I immediately told myself, once it drops in August, I am committed. I'm making my very first video about Alien. Well, August is here, and sure enough, a new Alien is about to land. This time, we finally get a satisfying glimpse into the dystopian world of ordinary people living under the rule of the Valent Yutani Corporation. The opening gives us a solid look at the main character's motivations and introduces us to both Rain and her fascinating android brother Andy, played brilliantly by David Johnson, as well as the world they inhabit.
Due to a shortage of workers, you're being transferred to the mines.
Wait, what? No, I reached the required hours.
You have to let me go.
Unfortunately, quotas have been raised to 24,000 hours, so you'll be released from contract in another 5 to 6 years.
Unfortunately, after that promising start, the rest of the film more or less asks you to switch off your brain, because the amount of plot holes and inconsistencies might just rival the rest of the franchise combined. Take the basic premise, for example. A bunch of teens somehow manage to sneak onto a supposedly abandoned spaceship owned by the previously mentioned corporation, and they pull it off without meeting any resistance. Which is, well, hard to buy, especially considering we are talking about Weyland-Yutani here.
You want to break into a Weyland-Yutani ship and steal highly regulated equipment? You guys are insane.
Of course we are.
Are you gonna help?
I'd imagine they treat any breach of their secret research facility as, at the very least, an unacceptable inconvenience, more likely a high-level threat.
Run.
But if you're willing to accept those flaws, you're left with a pretty suspenseful movie with some great action scenes if you need homages to the older movies, and one especially gruesome moment that's going to be hard to erase from your memory.
You don't help her, you run. Get out, however you got in.
I'm talking, of course, about a thing that could be probably best described as a giant alien vagina. Even though I've seen the second film more times than any of the others, I watched it at least like 10 times since I was about 8, last time being last summer, I'll take a bit of a risk here, because I don't share the popular opinion that this one is the best.
Don't move. Trust me.
It always goes the same way. At the beginning, I think maybe I was just in a bad mood last time. Around the 40-minute mark, I'm fully on board, thinking this movie is amazing. By the 80th minute, I've stopped thinking altogether and I'm just riding the wave of this absolute banger. And then, suddenly, it dips. And I remember why I never connected with this film quite as much. Don't get me wrong, it's still very, very good. I just think the first movie is better.
That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over. What the fuck are we gonna do now? What are we gonna do?
Maybe we could build a fire, sing a couple of songs, huh? Why don't we try that?
We better get...
A lot of things do work incredibly well here. Once again, we get some fantastic practical effects and a cast full of strong, memorable characters.
Looks like love at first sight to me.
Pretty much everyone here brings something special. You've got the badass Vasquez, the precise and quietly charismatic Bishop, played perfectly by Lance Henriksen, and of course, my personal favorite, the amazing Bill Paxton as Hudson, the hysterical soldier who never shuts up.
Ridley, don't worry. Me and my squad of ultimate badasses will protect you.
The film is packed to the brim with iconic one-liners and oozes cool, but there is still real heart and character chemistry underneath the surface. That's probably why so many people love it so much. And then there's that first combat encounter, an absolute masterclass in tension, pacing, and chaos. The helmet cam footage, the screams over the radio, the Marines getting torn apart while Ripley and Gorman watch helplessly. It's pure adrenaline. That scene alone makes this movie legendary. It's easily one of the most intense sequences ever put on film. Which makes it all the more frustrating that the second half, just doesn't quite hit with the same intensity. I can't even say exactly what's wrong. The more I think about it, the more I realize it mostly suffers from the fact that the first half is so tight, so damn near perfect, that it's impossible for the second half to fully measure up.
Well, that's great. That's just fucking great, man. Now what the fuck are we supposed to do?
So, in a way, it's a victim of its own perfection, which is, to be fair, not the worst critique I can imagine. And also, it is quite poetic.
Perfect organism. Its structural perfection is matched only by its hostility.
You admire it.
I admire its purity.
I wrote the script before rewatching the film, just to sketch out what scenes I'd use and get the structure down. I thought that would be fine.
There's a lot of talk going around that we've got some disharmony here.
But when I started watching the version I had, I realized something. I wasn't watching the theatrical cut. I was watching what's called the assembly cut. Not quite director's cut, but it's close. And since it's significantly different in a couple of moments, I'll talk not only about Alien 3 itself, but also mention a couple of the differences, and how they changed my view of the whole thing. Let's begin.
All right, let's get it going. Keep it together.
It could be said that, compared to any other movie in the Alien franchise, this one has more than its fair share of issues. Clearly, the budget wasn't its strongest asset. It was shot under immense time pressure, which led to many original ideas being scrapped or drastically changed. Stunning practical effects were replaced with lackluster CGI, even by early 90s standards. And after the first two movies were directed by titans of the industry, Scott and Cameron, young David Fincher was making his directorial debut here. Even considering all of that, Alien 3 is, without a doubt, my favorite entry in the series. In fact, I see it as a true ending of the Alien saga. Not Ressurection, not the prequels, but this. Ripley's final chapter.
Exactly.
Picking up in 2179, right after Aliens, Ripley crash lands on Fiorina 161, called Fury 161 in the movie, a penal colony inhabited only by religious men, many of whom are violent criminals and haven't seen a woman in years.
The survivor is a woman.
I just want to say that I've taken a vow of celibacy. That also includes women.
Due to complication during their flight, Newt and Hicks die tragically off screen, even before the story begins. That's something that pissed off a lot of fans at the time, but personally, I never had an issue with it. It immediately sets a grim tone and isolates Ripley even further, which fits the film perfectly. Ripley is found unconscious and taken to the infirmary in the Ledbergs by Clements, played by Charles Dance, who many know as Tywin Lannister.
Gonna say something clever? Go on, say something clever.
Soon enough, she must learn to coexist with the prison population and eventually persuade them that something far more dangerous is coming.
Take off. I gotta re-educate some of the brothers. We gotta discuss some matters of the spirit.
Fincher takes the franchise back to its roots. One alien, no weapons, and a group of disorganized people just trying to survive. But exactly in that simplicity, we see flashes of selfless heroism, improvised tactics, and surprisingly deep human connection. Many of the inmates become unexpectedly compelling, some even lovable. One of the highlights is a genuinely powerful rally the troops moment, when Dylan delivers a fiery speech that unites the prisoners to fight back against the alien.
So I say, fuck that thing! Let's fight it!
Fuck it! Let's go for it!
With a glad heart.
Another one is the burial ceremony, which mirrors the birth of the alien in one of the most poetic edits in sci-fi.
Amen.
I need to mention the key difference here. In the assembly cut, the creature is born from an ox. In the theatrical cut, it bursts from a dog named Spike. I didn't enjoy watching Spike die, but emotionally, it hits much harder than some random ox that dies off screen.
What kind of animal would do this to a dog?
Another example of a difference that wasn't for the better in the assembly cut. Golic begins to worship the alien and ends up releasing it from confinement, completely undermining the group's efforts. It doesn't really bring anything interesting and just leaves you scratching your head, wondering what kind of silliness you've just watched.
Garlic is just another poor, miserable, suffering son of a bitch, just like you and me.
Except he smells worse. And he's crazy.
There is also Aaron, nicknamed 85, whose backstory is left out in the assembly cut. And since his nickname clearly bothers him, it's a bit of a shame. That little detail gave him some depth and made his final moments more impactful.
85's gonna be in charge. Jesus, give us a break.
Don't call me that.
On the flip side, the assembly cut is more patient. There's more time for world building, and some characters, like Clemens, Dylan, and Morse, are more fully developed.
We've got a teeny-weeny problem.
The ending is also handled with a bit more dignity and subtlety, and thankfully avoids one cliché the theatrical cut just couldn't resist. I won't spoil it here, but you'll know it when you see it. So, why do I love this film, despite its flaws? Because each of the first 3 Alien films speaks in its own voice. Horror, action, and here, well, I criticized Aliens for being too perfect. I can't do that here. But, with characters like Dylan, Alien 3 brings unexpected spirituality and reflection. And maybe the saga needed that before saying goodbye. Its finale offers a strangely graceful, almost transcendent ending to Alien as a whole. A haunting and poetic farewell that, in my eyes, quietly elevates the entire franchise.
This is Ridley, last survivor of the Nostromo. Signing off.